taking the camera for a walk because we're in the greenhouse today. So, as you guys know, the kind of summer part of the season's come to an end. We're now officially in autumn. But that doesn't mean the season itself's come to an end. It doesn't mean we stop. There are still things to be done. There's still sowing and growing that can be done, especially if you've got a greenhouse or a polytunnel. So today we're in the greenhouse. Just put this down. Because, as you guys know, I have my greenhouse set up in quite a specific way so that it's really flexible. So I actually change it all up to suit whatever I'm doing and whatever the season is. So I'm going to do that today so that I can get started on my autumn and winter sowing and growing. So to start with, all of the tomatoes and pepper plants are going to say goodbye. So there we are, folks. Tomato plants are gone, and again, I know for some of the new guys amongst you, you'll be freaking out right now, but you know, it's the end of the summer season. These guys are warm weather crops. So a few weeks ago, I said about cutting back all of the foliage and locking up your auto vents and things to keep as much warmth in here as you can and keep the tomatoes as warm as you can, but also taking all the foliage and the excess off so that the plants could focus on ripening those tomatoes that, you know, were a good size and were ready to ripen. That's done, it's passed. I'm not really going to get anything more worthwhile out of these, and I've got other things I want to get on. So there you go. It's just part of the season and the changing things. So don't worry about it, okay? It does, let me show you this though, because quite a few of you guys have asked about how I support my tomato plants, and quite simply it's these. I've got, basically these are canes, okay, so just a big massive bamboo cane will do the job. These are just a wee bit fancier because we bought them originally for being out in the garden, but it's a spiral cane, and what happens is you can tuck the plant around this, so you don't need to tie it in as much as you do with a normal cane. But what makes them really sturdy for me is there's holes in the top, and as you can see, I can attach them to my greenhouse with bits of string here like this, and that keeps everything really rigid. Because one of the things about the quad grow, when it's got these huge plants in it, is it's not very stable. And I have tried using the mulch caps with the cane slots and stuff, and to be honest, I didn't find them very good. So I found this to be the best method for me. But you know, you can try all the different methods available and see what works for you. But tomatoes are done. Peppers next. So it's a not bad bounty, is it? What I've done is I've taken all the decent sized fruit off the peppers, a couple of which aren't 100% ripe yet. They'll just go in the window ledge, so not a problem. There was quite a lot of still quite small peppers, which are just a bit small to be of any use, so I've just chucked them. It's not the end of the world, because as I've said before, garden waste is not waste, because this waste actually is going straight into my compost bin. So it's not waste at all, because this is what feeds the garden for next year. And that's another one of the big jobs we'll be doing in a few weeks, is we'll be revitalising all the soil and all the beds and things. And trust me, even in a garden this size, that takes a lot of compost. So if you can make your own compost, it'll save you a fortune. Right, back to the greenhouse. So, it may look a bit very empty greenhouse, but trust me, it won't be for long. But just at the moment before I start the next bit, which is where I move things around and set it up for my next job, which is sowing and putting on of all the kind of autumn and winter things, and I'll tell you as we go what you can sow and grow, it gives me a chance to talk to you about a topic that's really big just now. So, you've seen that I've just cut down all of my pepper plants. Now, like tomatoes, peppers are not annuals by nature. They're actually perennial. It's just that in the UK climate, we can't just leave them out over winter. They just won't cope with that temperature. So we tend to just start from scratch every year. You can, however, technically do something called overwintering your plants. I've changed my mind about this section. Instead, I'm going to talk to you next week about overwintering your pepper plants. Right, so now I need to get a wee bit more clearing done. I need to get these pots and quad grows out and get them emptied. Basically, I just need to get all the soil out of them. Anything that's going in the compost gets put in the compost, and I clean the little matting that will get reused next year. And then that will leave me with a nice empty greenhouse to get on with my sowing of all my seeds and potting on my plants. So I'll get on with that and I'll meet you again in a sec. Random bits of string, don't throw them away, keep them because they'll be dead useful next year. Something else that is super useful, it's wire but it's covered with a soft rubber coating. It's brilliant because it doesn't damage the plants. So useful, this stuff. Before I do this, here's a bit of an ongoing thing that you may find amusing, and also it's going to be interesting to see. The very first year I used the quad grows, I nicknamed them slug hotels because underneath the pots and underneath the lid was so full of slugs and slug eggs. You cannot believe, trust me. Go back and watch the video just to see about how many slugs there were in my reaction. That's why I put the copper tape on them, so it'll be interesting. Last year there were hardly any. Be interesting to see what we've got this year. Hurrah for copper tape. Not a single one. So this is my staging. So you know that on this side it's all upright, proper staging, and the peppers are on it. This side has been folded flat all this time so that the tomatoes could sit at floor level. I'm not going to lie, one of the best buys ever has been this folding staging. This greenhouse would be a nightmare without it. I just wouldn't be able to do all the different things I can do now. So I'm just going to lift it, clean under it, make sure everything's all clean, and put it back up again. It comes in two parts, so this is the shelf for the bottom. And this is the actual sort of main top shelf and the legs. The hardest bit is just the manoeuvring in and out of a greenhouse with stuff in it. It's much easier when the greenhouse is empty because you've got turning space. But there we go. So I've now got an extra set of staging for doing all my potting on and planting up. And that's next. Man, okay. So yesterday in here we got it all cleared out and all the peppers and tomatoes are gone. Today I'm going to get some sowing and potting on and things done. However, today, even though it is still blowing an absolute gale, it's really sunny, so it is baking hot in here today, so I'm really struggling already. People ask, so I will show you quickly because it's handy. This is my potting tray, which I can work in this bit with some soil and it just keeps the greenhouse clean. And this is handy for just putting things in, like labels, pens, etc. They come in two pits. Also, on all the staging, you'll see me when I'm working, when it's small, when it's seed trays, module trays, all that kind of thing. I have trays, okay? Now, I spoke about having trays on these shelves, but I use these big trays on the staging because, you know, they're much bigger, so I can get more in them. But they are just grow bag trays, okay? Just standard grow bag trays you can buy in your local sort of DIY store, garden store thing. Again, this you can get in a lot of the garden stores and online. So people ask me about this stuff an awful lot. As always, if you go into the description of the videos, I've got a little website where we put all of the gear we use, the tools we use, all of that kind of stuff. You can go there and you can find out more about all of this stuff if you want. Here we go. And again, I know people ask about this box I keep my seeds in. It's on my website in the description, but just to warn you, they are pretty expensive, these things. They're for photos, they're not for seeds. Bit of string. Oh, nope, it's too hot. That's only marginally better, and I'm going to get my white shirt covered in dirt now. So as always, compost has been sitting in a bag under the bench, so it will get lumps. You just break them up, because if you're sowing, you want it to be as fine as possible. So this is just what I usually do for sowing seeds. I don't buy fancy seed mixes and all of that. This is my homemade compost. I just sieve it really, really fine. So what I'm going to do in here today, as I said, I'm going to be doing some spring onions. So I've got I've got white Lisbon winter hardy spring onions, and I'm going to be sowing these. Again, you need to watch out for the winter hardy. I'm not sowing these this year, but you can get autumn king carrots that you could be sowing. I'm not doing carrots in the greenhouse this year. I'm also going to get some more of the broccoli rabe going that I did in the previous video, and as I already mentioned, some of the winter little gem lettuce going. So I'm going to be using my big seed trays because I've got space now, and they're under here. So spring onions then, so these are the winter variety. The idea being that I'm getting a good head start on these, so these will be ready slightly earlier in spring. Now, I have never sown spring onion. In fact, I've never grown any type of onion before. I've grown garlic, that's all. So I have just been watching other people on YouTube to see how they do it. And I know that quite a few folk who do a lot of onions and spring onions, they're saying that they just sprinkle thinly in each module. They don't always even use module trays this size. It's all just a fun experiment. It's half the fun as I get to experiment with you guys. Because it's how we learn. And I'm just covering these up now. Just very light covering on top. I keep meaning to buy one of those handy little sieves, but I haven't got around to it yet. Label, always important. First lot, done. Now this is the Broccoletto Quarantino Riccio, and these are the same ones that I sowed last time, but I'll be honest, I was a bit unsure of how well they were going to take, so I sowed quite a few per module, and they all took, so I'm not going to do that this time. I'm actually going to be quite sparing with them, which is difficult because they're quite small. If I can manage one in a module, I will. It's probably going to be one or two in a module, to be honest. Now these are apparently very quick grown, so I've already got some that I'll show you are quite well on. I'm hoping I'll be able to harvest them soon, but obviously they're the type of plant where you use the entire plant is quite small, so I want to keep these going. So it's called succession sowing. Oh, I can't speak. Where you're making sure that you've always got stuff coming on. Okay. winter lettuce next. So again, I'm deliberately using a larger module tray than you would normally use. Normally you would use a much, much smaller seed starting tray. But I don't want to have the hassle of potting these on. I'm just wanting to make life easier. And I know, because I grow these already, and I know the size of the plant, and I know this will be great for the size of the plant. So again, I'm being very sparing, because I don't want to have to pot on if I don't have to. Three trays of seeds. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to get going then is I'm going to get potting on, because these are the pak choy that I sowed in here the other week. They're coming on fab, but I sowed multi-seeds in each of these little module pods, so I'm going to have to break them out and give them all their own space. And again, the same with the broccoli rabe, or the, now let me see if I can do this, the broccoletto quarantino riccio. So they're next. So that's all the broccoletti potted on. I'll get on with the pak choy now. Oh, now, I'm just going to get this done. It's just a job that needs done. If you're nervous or you've never potted on before, then there is actually a video where I went through this in a wee bit more detail. So I'll link it up in the left and I'll put it in the description as usual. But for now, I've just got a job to get on with. It's time for the bright lime green tools the cats bought me. Now here's a trick for you. If you're potting on and you've used a module tray, you'll have little clumps of plants. You don't want to pull them apart because you'll damage the roots. What you do is take two of the plants and hold them by the big leaves and just shake them and let gravity do the work. And they will fall apart naturally. And of course, if you're potting on any new plants, you need to give them a good drink, which is why I've got these trays. It just makes it so much neater, cleaner, and less worrisome. Because I've got wooden staging, so if I water directly over it, it'll just flood underneath where I store everything. So the trays stop that, which is a bonus. Okay, I've got some more jobs to do in here today, but they're for next week's video where I'm going to take you through the overwintering of the peppers. But for today, that's me done for the greenhouse, so I hope that was useful, guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye!